Good afternoon and happy Monday, everybody. This is the Rebellious Counselor coming to you for a very short video to talk about grief. And that is going to be our topic of the week. We're talking about grief. And the reason I chose grief as the topic this week is there's been quite a lot of talk in the media lately about a new diagnosis in our diagnostic and statistical manual of a new diagnosis called prolonged grief. That itself is a new diagnosis. And it's a very controversial diagnosis because it's saying that if you are feeling feelings of grief after 6 months, which could look like a lot of things, depression, rumination, feelings of post-traumatic stress, all kinds of things like that, that you could actually be diagnosed with prolonged grief at a 6-month period after somebody dies. And for me, who's, one of my two specialties is grief, I am very upset about this because I couldn't disagree more. And I think most clinicians would agree with me that there is nobody on this planet who is not grieving after a significant loss at 6 months' time. Now, everybody's grief may look different. So some people may not be able to get out of bed because they're so depressed. Some people may have panic attacks. Some people may, just be forgetful and numb. Some people may start using drugs and alcohol or food or many other things to deal with that. But to expect somebody at 6 months after the death of a loved one to not feel those feelings and to actually be considered diagnosable with something called prolonged grief, to me is, just absolutely ridiculous. And I'm disappointed in our psychological association for doing that. But their side of it is basically that this opens a window for people who are feeling these intense feelings at 6 months or after a loss to be able to get insurance coverage for medications under the diagnosis of prolonged grief. But it's not really necessary, because if you want coverage because you're feeling bad after someone died 6 months later, which is normal, you can be diagnosed with depression or anxiety or anything else at any other time. So it's really not necessary to even have this diagnosis, in my opinion. So if you hear about this, which you might, because everyone is affected by grief and loss, I don't want anyone out there to feel bad that they're still feeling all of these intense feelings of loss and depression and anxiety and sadness, and only 6 months after somebody passes away. So it's very important to understand this. And we're going to be talking all about this on the Rebellious Counselor Live this Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. We're going to be talking about this new diagnosis called prolonged grief at 6 months plus after losing someone you love. And we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of the details. And I think it's important to talk about, because I don't want people seeing this written about in the news and to misunderstand it or get angry or start, pathologizing themselves or their feelings, because often our grief is nothing more than a symbol of our love for somebody. And when we really love and we really cherish someone in our lives, it takes many, many, many years to get over that. In fact, I don't think grief even really hits us for a good year. So for the APA in our diagnostic manual to say that, oh, if you're having these symptoms 6 months after someone died, that you've got a diagnosis of prolonged grief is, insane. No pun intended. So this is the Rebellious Counselor short. Please share it. And it's a little forecast of what we're going to be talking about Wednesday night live right here on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram at 8 o'clock. And I will see all of you then.